Some powers came with pain. Others brought purpose. But a few redefined who Clark Kent truly was. In Smallville, every new ability wasn't just a cool moment. It was a turning point, a metaphor, a test of identity. Today, we're counting down the top 3 power reveals that didn't just change what Clark could do, they changed who he was becoming, from farm boy to legend.
Perspiration. The desired goal of all courtship behavior in mammals is to the female.
At number 3, we have a power that's equal parts hilarious, awkward, and surprisingly profound. Heat vision. First introduced in Season 2, Episode 2, Heat. This power reveal is unforgettable, not just because of the way it happens, but because of what it represents. Clark doesn't discover this ability in a battle or during a dramatic rescue. No, he unlocks it in health class, while staring at the new teacher during a lesson on reproduction. Classic Smallville. But behind the comedic setup is something much deeper. Heat vision is Clark's first power, directly linked to his emotional state, specifically desire. It's triggered not by stress or danger, but by hormones, attraction, and a complete lack of control. In many ways, it's the perfect metaphor for teenage angst. And for Clark, whose very identity is already a balancing act between two worlds, this new ability is more than a joke, it's terrifying. The idea that your feelings, your most human feelings, can accidentally hurt someone, that's a level of fear Clark hadn't experienced before. Up until then, most of his powers were physical: strength, speed, invulnerability. Heat vision was different. It wasn't about reacting to danger. It was about managing your own emotions. It forced Clark to face a difficult truth. His powers weren't just tools. They were responsibilities. And in this case, they were also tied to something he didn't yet fully understand: his own desire, attraction, and vulnerability. What makes this episode so effective is how it blends humor with genuine character development. Sure, there are laughs, Clark accidentally incinerating a movie screen, awkward moments with his parents, but there's also a lesson about control. Not just physical control, but emotional maturity. Heat vision marks the beginning of Clark realizing that being Superman isn't about being strong. It's about being in command of yourself, especially when emotions are running high. Later in the episode, with help from Jonathan Kent, in one of the most underrated father-son moments of the series, Clark learns to redirect the emotion, to focus his energy. It's a turning point that speaks volumes. He's no longer just reacting to the world around him, he's learning how to control what's within him. And from a storytelling perspective, this episode sets a precedent. Clark's powers will always come at a cost. They'll always reflect something deeper: his fears, his temptations, his personal growth. Heat vision may not be as flashy as flight or as essential as strength, but it earns its place in the top 3 because of what it symbolizes. It's Clark's first step toward mastering not just his body, but his emotions. It's a rite of passage disguised as a puberty gag. And like most great Smallville moments, it's funny, awkward, powerful, and unforgettable.
Someone could hear me. I can't believe you're calling me, especially after everything that's happened. Look, I told you before, my researching Clark days are over.
At number 2, we have one of the most underrated but deeply meaningful power reveals in Smallville: super hearing. Clark first taps into this ability in Season 2, Episode 16, Fever. But unlike the chaotic or comedic energy of heat vision, this power arrives during a moment of pure vulnerability. After being temporarily blinded by a kryptonite explosion, Clark finds himself disoriented, powerless, and uncertain. And it's in that silence, in that forced stillness, that something new awakens: the ability to hear everything. And by everything, we mean everything. Conversations in the hallway, footsteps in the distance, the heartbeat of someone he loves. Super hearing doesn't burst into Clark's life with drama. It creeps in quietly. But the emotional impact is huge. This wasn't just another power. This was a turning point that forced Clark to engage with the world in a whole new way. Suddenly, he couldn't not hear things. Whispers, cries, lies, truths, pain. He went from observing the world to being immersed in it. And here's what makes this reveal so special. It's the first power that truly feels like a burden. Superhearing introduces the idea that knowledge, especially of other people's pain, isn't always a gift. For someone like Clark, who already feels responsible for the people around him, this ability is overwhelming. He's no longer just dealing with what's in front of him. He's being pulled in every direction at once. It's overstimulation, emotionally and physically. And it raises a haunting question. How do you choose who to save when you can hear everyone crying out at once? In many ways, superhearing represents Clark's deepening connection to humanity. It's no longer just about saving friends or reacting to immediate threats. Now, Clark is tied to the broader world, its conflicts, secrets, and suffering. The world is getting louder, and so is his responsibility. But there's also power in it. Once Clark begins to control the ability, it becomes one of his most crucial tools. He can track people across great distances, detect lies through subtle heart rate changes, and anticipate threats before they appear. But even then, it's not about raw strength, it's about listening, about slowing down and tuning in. And that's a perfect metaphor for Clark's emotional evolution. This reveal may not be as visually exciting as flight or heat vision, but it earns its place at number 2 because of its emotional and symbolic weight. It's the moment Clark becomes more than just a protector of his circle. He begins to carry the weight of the world in his ears. At number 1, we have the power that fans waited 10 seasons to see, and the moment that truly transformed Clark Kent into Superman: flight. Unlike other powers, flight was always just out of reach. We saw hints of it: floating, jumping, dream sequences, even his Kryptonian counterpart flying, while Clark himself stayed grounded. And that was no accident. In Smallville, Clark's inability to fly wasn't a matter of physical limitation, it was a psychological one. He couldn't fly because he wasn't ready. And that's why this reveal is the most powerful of all. Flight represents freedom, ascension, embracing one's full potential. And for Clark, that meant letting go of fear, doubt, guilt, and most importantly, his reluctance to become who he truly was. For 10 seasons, Clark held himself back, worried that stepping fully into his destiny would mean giving up his humanity, his relationships, and the life he thought he wanted. But in finale, everything changes. When Clark finally takes flight, literally and metaphorically, it's not just a cool action sequence. It's the payoff of 10 years of emotional buildup. The moment he embraces his dual identity, Clark Kent and Kal-El, and understands that he doesn't have to choose one over the other. He can be both. He is both. What makes flight different from all the other powers is that it's not triggered by accident, puberty, or crisis. It's the only ability that required complete self-acceptance. Only when Clark fully believed in his destiny, only when he let go of his past and fear of the future, could he rise, literally, into the skies. And when he does, it's not just a power reveal. It's a spiritual awakening, a graduation. Flight also symbolizes that Clark's journey as the farm boy from Kansas is over. The man standing in his place isn't afraid anymore. He's not hiding. He's not holding back. He's Superman. And the world has never needed him more. From a storytelling perspective, this was the perfect climax. The moment Clark leaves the ground is the moment we all realize we've witnessed a transformation, not just in strength, but in purpose. And that's why flight earns the number 1 spot. It's not the flashiest visual effect, but it is the most meaningful. Because it doesn't just show us what Clark can do, it shows us who he's finally become. He's not just defying gravity, he's rising into legend. Which reveal hit you the hardest? Let us know in the comments. And if you love this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more Smallville deep dives.